So yeah, so the premise of this panel is talking about sort of data-driven TV and how do we reach audiences scale in this part of the world. Obviously, it's really interesting because obviously CTV is huge in the US, and but the dynamics change once you leave the US, and even the APAC region is probably even more different than Europe or South America and the US. So we're going to talk about where the supply is coming from, how do we scale, and a few questions about sort of the competitive landscape. So before I do, just quickly introduce yourself and where you're from, because I only did your first name, so I do apologize. Paulina, you tell people where you're from.
It's okay. Paulina Klimenko, Chief Growth Officer at PubMatic. For those of you who do not know what PubMatic does, we're an independent technology provider focused on delivering programmatic supply chain of the future. We build monetization solutions for publishers, app developers, and retailers, and also solutions for our buyers that enable them to connect with addressable audiences across formats, across screens, in a sustainable and privacy compliant way.
All right, I'm Hemant. I lead the performance marketing practices along with client relationships at Dentsu. For those of us who don't know what Dentsu is one of the leading holding companies in the world, and we really cater to our clients across different services.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Mottershead. I'm the commercial director for Publica. For those who don't know what Publica is, we're an ad server that's built specifically for publishers, OEMs, media owners that want to monetize their video inventory. And we also help to give users at home very familiar looking ad break experiences.
Hi everyone, I'm Dinesh Joshi. I'm a VP in terms of programmatic. So I'm representing NDTV. NDTV's name, New Delhi Television. So we are into broadcasting plus digital ecosystem. Yeah.
Excellent, thanks guys. So let's start with the first question, right? Where is the supply going to come from for data-driven TV in this region, right? So outside of YouTube, I'd like to kind of get a sense from the panel where that's coming from, because we have a very interesting sort of dynamic here in APAC. We've got OTT, we've got mobile inventory, we've got TV inventory. It's not sort of up and down as it is in the US, where you've got a TV, plug it into the programmatic ecosystem. It's very different. So let's start about where that supply comes from. Paulina, we'll start with you first. And then we'll work our way through the panel, because I want to hear everybody's point of view, because I'm interested.
Okay, you ready for it?
Go ahead,
All
shoot.
Right. I'll start with maybe kind of a bigger picture, and then sort of zoom into the sort of APAC specifics. So in general, CTV or TT supply comes, I guess, with three different channels, right? One is fast channels. Free ad-supported TV and fast channels have gained tremendous amount of traction in the US and EMEA, and I think it's kind of picking up speed here in that APAC. They're usually cheaper to produce than, for instance, broadcaster inventory. They're lower priced and basically very much have a lot of scale and ad-supported opportunities. The second kind of a type of CTV supply comes from broadcasters, right? So think about channel 7, 9, 10, and Z. Think about like 13 broadcasters in Japan. So these broadcasters bring broadcaster video on demand. A lot of it is becoming programmatic and will be more so biddable over time. And then, of course, there is kind of a series of new entrants, the huge players that traditionally been relying on subscription-based models, right? Think Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus. All of them have recently moved into kind of an ad-supported, to the ad-supported model. And while the scale is still limited, this is where I think a lot of supply will come from over time.
Where do you've got some other, there's other places as well, isn't there?
It is. I'll probably put my advertiser or buyer's hat on, right? And probably before I get into specifics of the players that we see as an agency come to us, approach us with different solutions, I think it's important to kind of simplify, because our industry has this ways of, or mechanism of working where we love to play with complex jargons. So I think it's important to understand what the landscape setup is like. So I think there's the consumer, then there's the content enablers. So content enablers are platforms, as I call them, all the device manufacturers, so Samsung, LG, etc., who've built up bad businesses. There are Chromecast and Fire TV who have also built up bad businesses. And then you have the content streaming platforms, right? So all the content providers. So it could be Hulu, VTV, iFlix, iQIYI, a lot of these guys who play in this region. And then you have somewhere in the middle, you have the ad inventory distributors. So SSPs, ad networks that are claiming to have inventory from a CTV or a TV standpoint. And then you have the advertisers. Now imagine the advertisers, like life, right? So you have the content enablers reaching out to advertisers. You have the SSP and ad networks reaching out to the advertisers. You have the content streaming platforms reaching out to the advertisers. So it kind of gets really complex to understand and navigate the intricacies of the ecosystem. But just to kind of add on to that complexity, I think APAC landscape is segmented in a very different way. I think ASEAN operates as a very different ecosystem on its own compared to, let's say, India. Australia is, of course, ahead of the bell curve when it comes to CTV and a lot of this a lot of the conversations. And then you have Japan, Korea playing in a very different space. So I think from that standpoint, it becomes very complex. But just to kind of, again, simplify it, there are global players who are trying to fight uphill battles to get consumer attention in this space, in this region. So you have Netflix, you have Disney, and then you have the regional players like iQIYI, Hotstar, View, a lot of these guys who try to operate across multiple markets and therefore cater to local audiences. And then you have the local players, right? So Singapore, every market has their own OTT platform that operates or gives supply in that space.
Jesus, my head's spinning already, hey? Chris, that's mental. Chris, with all that messy...
We need beers for this.
Yeah, I know, exactly. We probably needed a whiteboard. Chris, with all this fragmentation, though, like, that must be a nightmare for buyers, right? So, obviously, the data-driven TV thing has been advanced because, advertisers are asking for more addressability. But, when you talk about the fragmentation, like, it is a serious problem. So do we need sort of... How do you even begin to standardize that, like, in terms of measurement and targeting? Like, how do you get scale? Because that's probably what advertisers... With linear, it's scale, right? With this, there's so many moving parts. How do you get, like... Chris, how do you actually get any kind of standardization?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the biggest problem right now is that there's no agreed upon currency as to how we kind of federate this user journey across all of these different environments. So I think what's happening in APAC, we're kind of in a good position because we can look at what's happened in other markets and we can kind of learn from mistakes and we can advance into areas where we know there's pitfalls and we can look to strengthen. So, for example, you've got in Australia, there's the major broadcasters now looking to agree on having a unified ID across their platforms, so it gives buyers more visibility and I guess sequential lineage on that customer journey. But I don't see that happening in like Europe or the US. Everyone's still very much a closed shop. And also I think with measurement, it's a team sport, right? So you also have different constituents that are kind of trying to justify where their share of the budget's coming from. So for example, YouTube is being probably looked at maybe as a social channel. And they would argue that, okay, we deserve part of the TV dollars. And so they're trying to get in front of buyers to justify their inventory as being as premium as being in a broadcast environment. And then, you've also got those new niche channels and environments coming through, like FAST, ACR data being used to bridge that gap between linear exposure and online as well, which is another area that we'll probably go into. But look, it's very difficult. We don't have a JIC or a measurement body yet that's kind of agreeing on this. And plus as well, regulation and privacy, it's a moving target. So because APAC's got so many different regions, so many different legislation, the minute we do agree on something, it might all be redundant anyway. So I think at the moment we're still trying to work that out, but it's, quite a lot of guesswork, but there is scale. Right. So you touched on probably the hot topic here, right? YouTube. You just mentioned it, right? Google. Welcome to the conversation again, Google. You're in all my nightmares. Fucking go away. That's a huge, and it will come to you because I want to talk about how you sell against YouTube. Because obviously YouTube are going in and saying, hey, we're TV, we've got scale, we've got addressability. Like, how do you sell against that? Like, is there an argument there? Like, and it's probably an argument made globally, is that
professional content versus UGC crap, which is what YouTube is. Let's be honest here, skateboard kids and stupid crap like that. Like, you know, I don't know, but I haven't watched YouTube in ages. But how do you sell against that? Like, is it a case that you do have to set your stall out to get that money?
So that's the case we are also facing, you rightly mentioned. But again, there is a problem of fragmentations. So being a broadcaster, plus we are video first in terms of all the display or the CTV side. So we are running a lot of live TV as well as VOD. So we have a lot of direct, direct campaigns which is going around VOD side on a pre-roll side. When it comes to mid-roll or in terms of scale, definitely we are there in terms of YouTube. But again, you touched on the UCG side because it's a user-generated content. We can't, we don't have a control over in terms of brand safety measurement. So we work on our side brand safety measurement because we are working on in terms because we are utilizing GAM in that area. So we have a lot of brand safety measurement. So in that area, definitely we are selling to all the agencies on that part, plus the viewability factors. Not the viewability TV is more of VTR. So we are working on that area. For 90+% we are there in terms of VTRs on CTV as compared to YouTube. So YouTube works on their own environment, though they have very good in terms of viewability rate or watch rate time as compared to mobile. But yes, for us, for the brand's perspective, for the loyalty in terms of a user base, NDTV have their own user base in terms of Android ecosystem. Though we are there in terms of OEMs, a lot of operator base, we are selling on that area as well.
Are you seeing that as well? The fight against YouTube, even here.
So 2 comments. So yes, of course. I mean, there's an elephant in the room, right?
Turn the phone off.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say 2 things, right? So it's fragmentation. What do we do about fragmentation? And also, what do we do about scale? Right. So the way we kind of think about this is, and we just talked about this a little bit, APAC is a very fragmented market. Some other markets are also show quite a bit of fragmentation. And when you think about CTV or addressable TV as an extension of linear, buying linear is easy, right? And you have very few intermediaries. Also, YouTube is actually pretty simple to buy. And so for us as a technology provider, the challenge is how do we make CTV, OTT buying easy and streamlined and reduce the number of intermediaries in the process. And this is why we launched Activate. Activate is an end-to-end media activation platform that enables buyers to bring direct deals and execute them against PubMatic's premium video and CTV inventory, reducing hops, creating operational efficiencies, and reducing fees in the ecosystem. And this is, very exciting innovation for us. It's bringing supply and buy side together. It's available in APAC on the back of a very strong momentum in North America and EMEA. And that's kind of how we think about fragmentation. And then when we think about scale, right? YouTube basically brings a lot of scale to bear. The way to think about scale is maybe take a very holistic approach to video and think about video not just as a kind of a CTV buying in silos, different from, separate from like online video, but rather packaging all of the video into kind of what we think about as converged to total video, right? And packaging CTV, OTT, online video, mobile in-app video, and kind of allowing buyers to reach target audiences across multiple formats and screens. And that's what we hear from our buyer customers as well. They're breaking down the silos and reorganizing themselves against that total video approach.
I'll come back to the US CTV few in a minute, but you kind of jumped into the very crux of TV, SPO. So this is effectively an SPO product, similar to OpenPath, and I think Magnite's got one as well, but PubMatic has one as well. So that's interesting. From a buyer's perspective, do you think that's where it goes? Like, think about this sort of supply chain, right? Typically in display you have a DSP, an SSP, and supply, right? And let's be honest here, the amount of supply on the open web is infinite. All kinds of stuff, premium, MFA, AdSense, dog shit, right? All that stuff, right? And there's lots of it. So you do need an SSP to aggregate, and you do need a DSP to listen to those impressions. Now, in TV, you probably know all the bloody sellers, right? You know who's selling it. So is the SPO just an inevitable sort of direction for that space? Because I want to have a debate about this. Do you need just either a DSP or an SSP to activate the campaign, PG, AG, into an ad server? One hop. You avoid all the complications. Is that where we're going to go, you think, on the tech side? And I'll get into the aggregation of supply in a minute, but I want to go back to that. But I just want to talk about the tech execution layer. What's your view on that?
I think my view on that is that definitely SPO is required. I think transparency is like one of the biggest factors that limits brand trust within the space. So a lot of times, I spoke about the complexity, and you go out and you speak to like any player in the market. That player claims to have CTV impressions or spots, and you're like, okay, great, but how are you sourcing that? So a lot of times we are met with narratives, but nobody kind of gives a very clear picture of how that happens. So I think SPO will be there, and through dentsu's approach, like we've also taken this approach on curation, where we have a product called Curate, where our endeavor is to, and we're working with PubMatic, for example, and our endeavor is to actually have quality supply, only quality supply going out to our advertisers. I think it's still early days in the TV space specifically. So I wouldn't say that, so there's no utopian model in my head with respect to where the tech goes, but I feel SPO will play a role as this space grows and as more investments pour into this space.
All right, well, we'll play devil's advocate, Chris, because I like to do this as well. Let's just say inevitably you get a lot of publishers who do fast channels, right? And number grows. We get to a number of 100, 200 fast channels. Then you have the opportunity to buy in a programmatic way. You do see things going that way. In fact, there'll probably be a premium end, sort of mid to long tail, where there'll be lots of value for advertisers as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, I think it's kind of beauty's in the eye of the beholder when you're kind of indexing what's premium, because if you're a brand and you want to build, connect with your tribe, you want to try and target against niche environments that maybe another brand doesn't index as being part of their alignment, then I think as long as you're passing down parameters, downstream, be it direct or through other arrangements, then those parameters are giving buyers visibility of what that ad opportunity looks like. We talk about SPO. Some of the problems that you get with CTV today, so I talk about over-frequency of ads, so you're seeing the same ad in the same pod again and again. That's because the buyers don't have the actual transparency as to where in the pod they're going to appear, so that's a problem. You've also got as well the spinning wheel, so that rendering. That's because it's likely that particular publisher or that exchange is leaning into protocols that were built for display environments, which clearly don't work in streaming. And so if you do want to go into an environment where you've got streaming protocols, so we talk a lot about OpenRTB 2.6, and then PubMatic supports this as well, where what we want to do is have a number of demand partners connected, because at the end of the day, if one person's telling you what your inventory is worth, you're not going to maximize that item. So as long as you've got sustainable protocols in place, you're offering full transparency into what the pod looks like, because the first and the last pod is normally worth more than the middle. You can have multiple, not too many, because like in display, you saw the latencies that were created by having too many people called in the waterfall, and you don't want to have that in TV. But there's no problem with having a healthy taxonomy of demand partners who can at least give you transparency into what you're buying, but then also buyers appreciate having that visibility. So that for me is, I think, the sweet spot, but still quite a long way to go.
Dinesh, where do you work with the ecosystem? Do you just sell IOs? Is that what you do? Pick up the phone, get an IO, put it in the ad server. Is that, or do you have a programmatic layer that you work with?
So yeah, so as a broadcaster, as I mentioned, that we are heavy in terms of direct sales. We have a relation with agencies, so we get IOs for pre-rolls very well. That's working perfectly fine. But the problem is with mid-rolls. When I say mid-rolls, it's more of live TV, where SSI comes in picture, where you have a ads during the TV break, and similar time you have ads on the digital side. So there we are facing some challenges in terms of a programmatic way, because sometimes what happens, you don't have a partners. We are using vast text. They are giving low fills, especially in terms of a news genre. Mostly eCPMs are also low for the Indian ecosystem. So we have multiple layers for the vast channels, so they are giving empty fills. So most of the times you will see no ads, or you will feel the UX UI issues. So that's what programmatic way we are facing challenges. If you have a direct heavy, which is for VOD pre-rolls, we are more than 80 or 90%, we are there. Plus, because we don't have that scale, so that's working fine as of now.
Can I just talk about just the CTV narrative for a minute? Like, because I feel like we need to address it, right? In the US, we've heard the CTV stuff being bleated ad nauseum by everybody, right? CTV, whatever, right? US has a unique market, right? Bundle and then unbundling, and they've never had free TV, right? Everywhere else is, everybody, doesn't matter, I'm from Ireland, everybody from Asia, they've grown up with free air TV. I mean, even Paulina probably grew up with free air TV, like free TV, ad-supported TV, right? Do we need to be a bit more nuanced about this? Like, it's the US CTV model doesn't travel as well as it should do. Like, I have honest conversations with, I could say your colleague, but I won't mention their name, but in Europe, right, most of the inventory is video, right? Because there is no CTV inventory, right? The likes of ITV have a walled garden. The likes of Channel 4 have walled gardens, right? Do we need to be more nuanced about this, all right? Particularly in this region where there's so much inventory, so much fragmentation, and that maybe we need to approach the data-driven TV thing in a different way than simply just the old programmatic display way. And I suppose SPO is a good example of that. But do we need to be more nuanced? I don't think the US CTV message travels well anywhere else in the world. Paulina, do you want to answer that? Tough question, I know, but
So does it travel? I guess when we talk about CTV in the US, it's also pretty nuanced, right? I mean, I think you were talking about free TV. Well, yes, we have broadcasters. We have tier one broadcasters that sort of have professionally produced original content. You know, think NBC Universal, think ABC, Hulu Disney is probably like more like streamers. But these broadcasters do sort of, will be probably more akin to free TV that you're talking about. So I would say it is pretty nuanced. What we see, though, in the US and I think everywhere in the world is that the viewership is shifting from linear TV, be it free TV or paid for TV, and every network realizes it. Every network sees that shift in viewership. And the buyers, if they haven't noticed, are going to tell them, hey, I need to reach this audience, but, you have a rapid decline in linear TV viewership or network viewership. So what is your answer to that, right? And so the viewers are going to streaming, and the viewers also start over-indexing for certain categories like affluent, young, in that sort of a streaming inventory. And so when we talk about CTV, we're really talking about all forms of streaming, be it fast or broadcast or video on demand. But I think that's that trend, I do believe, sort of carries over into EMEA, into APAC, with obviously regional nuances and regional differences. But that is kind of an indisputable trend that we see worldwide, in my opinion.
So you've seen that as well. I mean, the nuances are different, and I suppose I'm going to throw another grenade into the conversation. Is like, we've just come from a gaming panel. The kids are on the gaming. Why can't we? Why is that not being included in the conversation around what TV is, and why are we not talking about TikTok, where basically the entire population under the age of like 18 is in Asia and Europe and the US for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say my language around CTV, especially in Southeast Asia, is always focused on video. So you have to bear in mind most of the consumption is happening on a mobile device, and it probably will be for a long period of time to come. And it lends itself quite well to, I'd say, the UGC environment and, again, those areas of short-form video content creation, which there is a lot of demand still to target. I think in terms of gaming, there's misrepresentations about what gaming actually is and what you can actually do in that space around the targeting piece. But then also, we just want to be able to provide. I mean, it's good to learn from the US and Europe because I think we are using their metrics of how they're measuring campaign success around what a successful TV campaign looks like. But then also as well, you have to think about the device penetration. I think Samsung has 23% penetration of the OEMs in this market, which is still quite small considering all of the options that are out there. But look, it's still, I think, it's a moving feast in that regard, and we're still trying to work out what the best ways are to kind of put the pipes together. But ultimately, if you've got an internet connection which kind of underpins everything, be it 5G, broadband, again, that's subject to what kind of levels of demand and usage you're going to get. We kind of have to keep the language pretty neutral. And again, I would still say it lends itself more to that mobile consumption versus actual TV device usage, which is heavily linked towards the Australian market.
We've got a couple of minutes left, Dinesh. I want to talk about where the money's coming from. Like, are you seeing money from traditional linear buyers, or are you seeing money coming from digital buyers? Where are you having new conversations with teams who want to buy your inventory?
So it's about consolidation, but linear definitely have footfalls. It's just, more than 80 or 90%, you can say. Digital, we don't have that kind of a user base in terms of CTV. But yes, slowly, I would like to say CTV is doing a complementary job in terms of, they are complementing linear TV, plus the overall yield and overall, we can say, the budgets, the overall, as compared to linear TV, we are seeing better yield and RPM for CTV ecosystem. So that's how we are getting better ROI.
Hemant, what are you seeing from the buy side perspective?
I think from a buy side, look, first of all, these are early days, right? I think there's a lot of testing and learning that's happening, definitely. But majority of the testing learning happens from the digital lens.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you talk to the advertisers or brands, they have, first of all, they have a holistic view of how things work. Yeah. So second of all, when you talk about CTV, they think about CTV from a very digital lens, if it's a performance advertiser, which is majority of the space nowadays. So if you look at from a digital lens, I think that's where the money kind of moves into the CTV space. But again, it's still early days, and testing and learning, I feel, is still the way forward.
And if I can add to that question, so when we talk to our buyer partners, the reason why they put dollars into CTV is probably like threefold, right? Extended reach, so reaching kind of those unique audiences that they can no longer find through their TV linear buys. Precision targeting becomes a really powerful factor in their decision to shift budgets to CTV or mobile OTT. So essentially, ability to reach audiences that you can target at a household level at scale. And then I guess also a lot of times cost. So and that's what sort of brings into the fold performance advertisers or direct response advertisers, right? Ability to reach those niche audiences in a cost-effective way, and also get like some better measurement around incrementality or performance metrics.
All right, can we just bring up that poll before we finish here? Can we bring up the poll on the screen? Oh, there we go. Oh, hold on. That's only one vote. Can't be right. Oh my God. Wow, that's unanimous. Can we hold on? So does the US TV model apply globally? Sure, but CTV is YouTube. Hold on. We got. Hold on. Good. No, US model. Hold on. Doesn't factor in APAC fragmentation, and then but it'll be a model unique to this region. So let's look at the vote. Okay, I don't know, it's probably 3 votes here. Like, it looks like, hold on, there we go. Yeah, the third option's winning. So on that amazing note of democracy, we'll finish up there. A round of applause for our panel, please. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.